There we go. Okay. See if we have captions on this. Closed captions. How do I even turn that on? Off. Whatever. I guess we don't need captions. Okay. All right. What time is it? It's 4:02. We're late. All right. We're going to hang out for like 60 seconds. See if anybody wants to pop in. Of course, if you're not watching this live, you can watch the recording. They all get posted right afterwards. If you can hear me okay, let me know. If it's too loud, let me know because I have my gain all the way up. I don't know what's going on with my mic. It's like a $400 microphone, and I still have. It's probably because I don't know how to use it. That's probably the truth. Okay. So let me know if audio's too low, too high, whatever it may be. And then I'll give it like 30 seconds, maybe 45, and we'll get plugged into it. Hope everybody's had a fantastic week. What day is it? I don't even know. It is Thursday, Thursday the 15th. I don't all the days just kind of blur together. You know what I mean? I'm drinking cold brew out of the jug. If that gives you any context about how my day and week is going, it's it's been busy. All right. Mute my phone, mute all this stuff so we don't get interrupted because people love interrupting me. Okay, so this week we are this is week 8. This is the conclusion of our 8-week kind of live free training that we've been doing, and this is topic of credit, turning debt into income, turning credit into cash flow. And I understand that, a lot of people probably want to jump straight to this one. They don't care about all that other arguably boring stuff in between, but that stuff is the building blocks to get to this. But I get it. I get it. Everybody wants the cake, but they don't want to bake, right? So, we'll just talk about the cake this week, okay, and things that you can do with that. So, let's jump right into this, turning credit into cash flow. Now, all of you, the benefits and advantages of having credit, right? What do you do with all of the new resources when you get them? Which business or investment is recommended to leverage credit or any kind of debt? Well, this is going to be really case by case in reality, but general rules of thumb are when choosing a business or investment to leverage credit or debt, a good rule of thumb is, choosing something, a business or opportunity that will cash flow quickly or relatively quickly, right? Because you have to service the debt. Okay. There's countless options. I've had clients use 0% interest credit cards for real estate, and you can use those same as cash through liquidation, right? Purchasing, fixing and flipping, you name it. You can purchase vehicles to rent out. You can purchase ATMs that will cash flow. I know people who use business credit to buy vending machines, and then they put them in high traffic areas, like event centers or things like that. And they actually make a lot of money. Boring businesses are profitable. Service-based businesses are profitable. You can also purchase vehicles to rent out. You can get involved in e-commerce. E-commerce is a massive business. You name it. The options are really limitless there. Okay. Now the key point here is that anything that out earns the cost of controlling the money borrowed is a good move. Let's get into a little bit more detail on that. So, a rough example, you have $100,000 in unsecured business credit to deploy. This is a rough example. Okay. 0% interest for 12 months. So, you're only really concerned about the principal. Your cost to control the debt is, it's 1 to 3%, but a lot of times it's 1% of the principal monthly. So, it's going to cost you $1,000 a month to use $100,000. So, it's pretty basic math. Anything that makes you more than $1,000 a month or $12,000 a year is a good use of those funds. Okay, now I'm just going to be frank with you. If you can't create a 1% monthly ROI or a 12% annual ROI, you should probably stick to your day job. Business is probably not for you. That's like the most baseline minimal thing to do. 1% a month or 12% annual on any venture, right? Because let's say there's a ramp up period of 90 or 180 days, 3 to 6 months. A lot of things don't cash flow in the first 3 months. So what do? That's fine. That's why it says or 12% annual, right? Because maybe you do 0, 0, 0 first 3 months, but then it's 369, right? So, and that's fine. So as long as you're making back the cost and a little bit more, or at least the cost, let's say it costs you $1,000 a month to service your debt, and you're paying that towards principal, but it's getting you an asset. You're not necessarily making profit on it, but it's paying off an asset that's going to continue to pay you after you've broken even. Then that's fine, right? Because everything after the break even point is net, right? So even if you're not making a profit on it up front, you're just, covering the cost to the principal. That's still fine, right? A lot of people, everybody's tied up in social media is probably to blame for this. That, oh, I want passive income. I want to make 5, 10, 20, $50,000 a month and not do anything for it. Okay, that you can do that. There is things to do that, but it doesn't happen overnight, and it takes a lot of money to do it. Okay, despite what TikTok guru may have said. Okay, there's ways to do that, but it doesn't happen overnight, and it takes a lot of money. Okay, now I've always loved the the saying that it takes money to make money. That's true, but before you get discouraged, here's what they don't tell you. Although it takes money to make money, it doesn't have to be your money. You can use other people's money to make money. And that's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to talk about. It takes money to make money, but it doesn't have to be your money, right? Okay. So use other people's money to create money. Like I just said, you use OPM, other people's money, to create income. You pay off the liability and you repeat. This is the rich people game. This is the game they play, and it's exactly why they're rich. They use leverage. Wealthy people don't use their money for much of anything except to accrue interest. They use other people's money, right? Why would they use their own if they don't have to? Like, for example, my money sits in secure accounts that generate interest and dividend yields, and that's where it stays, compounding and out of reach. And what's crazier is I can take out a loan against the money I have in those accounts at very low interest. So I can take out money against my money at low interest. Listen, it's a crazy game. I agree. I don't make the rules. I just learned how to play, and I'm here trying to help show you how to do the same thing. Okay. Most people play the money game wrong, and that's why they're, stuck, frustrated, and broke their entire lives. Okay. So there's a lot of wrong ways to do this, and there's a few right ways to do this. And that's what we're here to talk about. Okay. So, um, just 1,000-foot view, anything that creates more of a return than it costs to use the money is a good move. All right. Anything that out earns the cost of the money. Right. So Here's just a couple of examples. All right, these are like I said previously, the opportunities here are endless. You can do anything to create a return. I was just Let me give you one example I was just talking about earlier today, of a case study. A guy's kid put himself through college by reselling books. And, he would go to the local library. All the local libraries have books for sale, and there are only a couple of bucks. And he'd go on Amazon and find those books for sale to see what they're selling at. And it's usually like 4 to 10 times what he could buy it for. And he would just buy the books from the local library, sell them on Amazon for, a 5 to 10x return. And just, he paid for his college doing that. He made over $50,000 doing that. Okay, so there's the point I'm making there. There's countless things to do. So these are just a couple of examples. Number one is learn the lending game. You've obviously seen the money you can make in the lending space and the doors it opens. Everybody needs it. If you can be the gateway to it, puts you in a pretty great position. I mean, that's what I do. That's what the people I work with do, right? Investing into learning that skill, I personally think is wise for everybody, even if just for personal use and learning to fund yourself for anything. If you knew how to fund yourself for anything you wanted to do, that'd probably be pretty helpful, right? So my recommendation is always that step number one is just learn the money game. Okay. Moving on from there, real estate. You could buy and hold, fix and flip, Section 8. We have tons of members who are, who use leveraged funds for real estate investing. One of our partners even has a Section 8 program you're welcome to check out. Just message me for it or drop a comment. I'll send it over there. Remote cleaning business. Again, service-based businesses do very well. You're going to be surprised to hear that the boring businesses are what make the most money a lot of times outside of lending. I think lending is pretty sexy and it also makes a lot of money. Okay. But aside from that, boring businesses make money, service-based business, yard care, vehicle rentals, vending machines. They make a lot of money. They do, but they're not by any means sexy. One of our partners has a program for creating, running, and scaling a remote cleaning business, and the results have been pretty great. Another one is vehicle rentals. You can purchase vehicles with debt to rent out. This is a business model that is not going away. And we even employ ourselves on the higher end luxury side. I'm involved in this. And this is another venture we allow others to participate in with us. I mean, you feel free to reach out. Luxury watches. These are just a couple of examples, but another great game to get into. There's lots of money to be made. If you know who PJ is, he has an excellent program on it. Watch Trading Academy, I believe it's called. I took it years ago. But that's watches and cars open a lot of doors. If you saw my Facebook post today, I closed a deal because of the car that I was driving. Watches and cars are great door openers to other opportunities. Okay. So, like I said, these are just a couple of examples. The opportunities are endless. Anything that out earns the cost of the debt is a good move. Okay. That's also the difference. That is the difference between good debt and bad debt. Good debt has a use, it brings value. Bad debt just costs, it just sits there and just costs money. Okay. What's up, Scott? Yeah, we've been streaming every week. So I'm going to share with you one more opportunity that is not new, but it's new to you because we've only just opened it up publicly. This is something and there's a typo there, we and our partners take advantage of. Okay. Before I do that, I want to really make sure everybody understands that, the difference between good debt and bad debt and how to break that down. Anything that you use the money for that creates more of a return or value than the cost to use the money is a good move. I think if everybody I think that's a pretty simple concept, right? If it costs you $1,000 a month to use $100,000, but that $100,000 is bringing you a return of more than $1,000 a month or over the year, that's a good move. That's a very rough example, but that's how simple it is. Okay. All right. I'm going to share with you now. We're going to transition here, and I'm going to share with you some slides on what I just mentioned right here. Another opportunity that isn't new, but it's new to you because we've only just opened it up. It's something I'm personally involved with. Our partners are personally involved with, and it's pretty sweet. So let's get into that. So this is a venture capital investment opportunity, and here's the nuts and bolts. So here's kind of a timeline. 60-day deployment period. Capital will be fully immersed into our ventures and activated, assisting with scaling these ventures and, of course, scaling returns. Once capital is fully deployed and activated, we get to work growing and scaling our existing ventures and processes. This isn't a new groundbreaking model. This is our existing models that we've been profitably scaling for the last 6 years. You're assisting with the expedition of that. And then on top of that, you earn a set return on deployed capital. You receive this return regardless of venture performance, backed by our entire business, venture performance, cash reserves, and an overarching insurance policy to top it off. So the returns on that are guaranteed. It's a pretty sweet arrangement. So use of funds, right? I'm going to kind of skim through this. I'll put the deck in the comments so you can go through this in detail. But for transparency, we're just going to skim through this here right here. So we're transparent and straightforward in our use of funds. We're going to allocate 40% towards expanding inventory, 30% to marketing and sales, 20% in infrastructure, and 10% for strategic initiatives like market expansion, partnerships, and things of that nature. Okay, so that's a rough breakdown of how that looks. So what, there's only, as an investor, there's only two things you need to be concerned with. What's your ROI and what's the risk, right? I think everybody would agree, those are the only two things that matter: your ROI and your risk. Okay, so there's contractual guarantee. You're legally obligated to and guaranteed the returns on deployed capital as outlined, and we'll get more into that. Venture performance. This is not a new groundbreaking model. This is the same model we've been profitably scaling for the last 6 years. Okay, so it's not some new bug juice that cures cancer. Okay, this is the same rinse and repeat thing we've been doing for years. Cash reserves. Through good business practices and performance, we allocated sizable cash reserves as pseudo insurance coverage in the event anything abnormal does happen. We and you are covered. Okay, we always set 6 months of reserves aside before we do anything. And that's a good thing to do just in your personal life, right? Just call it pseudo insurance. And then actual insurance, we have insurance policies in place covering our business and practices as well as our performance and client obligations, further mitigating risk to a negligible amount. All right. So here's kind of a timeline of how that looks. 0 to 60 days is deployment. That's just the setup period. 60 days to 12 months is a 5.75% monthly return on your deployed capital. Okay. 13 to 24 months is a static 10% monthly return on deployed capital. 25th month is maturity and principal return. Okay. And if this doesn't make sense to you, that's it might not be suitable for you at this time anyway. Let's take a look. Here's just this matrix is a visual representation of your month-on-month return on capital deployment via return on investment percentage. So year one accumulated 57.5%. Year two is 120% for a total ROI of 177.5%, broken up monthly on this visual over here to the left. I think it's left. I think you're looking at this the same way as I am. Okay, so here's a breakdown. I guess the con here is that there's a cap. There's a maximum that you can do. We broke it into shares. Okay, and I don't really necessarily think it's a con that there's a minimum. I think that's a good thing. But the one con to this is that there's a cap. Okay, so if you were to max it out, your total ROI Over here on $140,000 would be 248.5 thousand, which is 177.5%. And then the 25th month would be a principal return. So plus that 140 back. I'm not going to break down each of these columns. I'll send you the deck in the comments, but that's how that looks. That's pretty sexy, especially for it being insured and guaranteed regardless of if the world flips upside down, you're still going to get that. Okay? It's kind of crazy. So that's just overview of that. If you want more information on that, you can just drop a comment, message me, and I'll put this deck in the comments as well. But again, that is just one example of something you can do to turn credit into cash flow, to turn debt into income. It's just one example. It's a pretty sexy example, but all of those other examples are things you can do. I mean, God, man, like let's say you don't have any cash on hand. Fine, go get a credit card, go buy some stuff at a secondhand store, resell it online for a profit. Like I literally know people that do that, and they make good money. There's so many ways to make money. You don't have to do those things that I mentioned, but anything that earns more than the cost of control of money is a good move. It's that simple. That's the wealthy game, right? Okay. So all right, nice and brief, to the point. I hope it made sense. Of course, if you have any questions, you can just ask in the comments. You can DM me, you can DM Kevin or any of my other team, and we're happy to help you out. If you want information on any of the opportunities that we discussed, just like I said, reach out, get connected. And this is going to be the conclusion of this 8-week run. Okay, we'll probably take a couple of weeks off, and then what we're going to do after that is we're going to restart this, but we're going to get a little bit better every time. We're going to revise things a little bit. We're going to add to the training. We'll add some incentives. We'll just spice it up every time. Okay. So we'll probably take a couple of weeks off. In that couple of week, in those couple of weeks off, we'll probably do some pop-up trainings just on various topics and just, sharing useful stuff with you guys. So definitely stay plugged in, stay tuned. And then with that said, thanks for coming out. Thanks for joining. If you're watching the recording, appreciate you. And we'll see you on the next one. All right. Bye, guys.